Have you ever wondered what happens when the world's wealthiest people decide they want to buy a piece of paradise? Well, right now, that's exactly what's happening in Hawaii. There's a massive land rush going on, and it's reshaping the islands in some pretty dramatic ways. So let's get into it. What really happens when billionaires start buying up paradise?
Okay, let's start with a number, 10%. Let that sink in for a second. That's the amount of all privately owned land in Hawaii that is now owned by just 37 billionaires. I mean, think about that. We're talking about a group of people so small they make up less than 0.004% of the state's population, and they control this huge slice of the islands.
So who are we talking about here? Well, it's a who's who of tech and media giants. You've got Oracle's Larry Ellison, who owns a staggering 98% of an entire island, Lanai. Then there's AOL co-founder Steve Case, Oprah Winfrey, and of course, Meta's Mark Zuckerberg. And look, we're not talking about a nice vacation home. These are massive holdings that can literally change the landscape and the economy of the communities around them. And this gets us right to the heart of the matter. What are the real consequences when this much land gets concentrated in so few hands? Is this a story of progress and amazing new investment? Or is it a story of displacement and the loss of culture? Well, as we're about to see, it's really, really complicated. So let's start by looking at this from the ground up. What does this trend actually cost the people who've called Hawaii home for generations? Because for a lot of them, the price of living in paradise is becoming just impossible. The first and most obvious impact is this incredible housing squeeze. When this kind of massive wealth floods into a place, property values just go through the roof. It's a wave of gentrification that's pricing so many local residents, including Native Hawaiians, right out of the communities their families have lived in for centuries. It creates this deep economic divide. But it's not just about money. You know, walls are going up, and I mean that both literally and figuratively. Mark Zuckerberg, for example, has been building this huge walled-off compound on his property in Kauai. And while that's about privacy for him, it really shines a spotlight on a much bigger issue: access to land and coastline that for a long time was open to everyone.
And to really get why this is such a big deal, you have to understand something called Kuleana rights. This isn't just some modern law. It's a deeply rooted Hawaiian legal tradition that grants people access across private land for things like fishing, gathering food, or visiting sacred sites. So when a wall goes up, it's not just a simple property dispute. It's seen as a direct challenge to a way of life.
But like any big story, there are two sides to this. So let's flip the script for a second. A lot of these billionaires would argue they aren't just buying land. They see themselves as stewards, investing in a new, more sustainable vision for Hawaii's future. Larry Ellison's project on Lanai is the perfect example of this. His stated goal is to transform the entire island into a kind of model for sustainability. We're talking huge investments in green energy, big-time organic farming, and a whole new model for high-end, eco-friendly tourism. If he pulls it off, it could be a real game changer.
And the investment isn't just in businesses. There's also some serious philanthropy going on. Take this number, $100 million. That's how much Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff has poured into various causes across the state.
So where's all that cash going? Well, in Benioff's case, a lot of it is aimed directly at the housing crisis we were just talking about. He literally gifted 282 acres of land specifically to build affordable housing. And he's not the only one. Oprah has been focusing her investments on Maui, backing local agriculture and sustainable farms.
You'll often hear these kinds of actions framed through the lens of ohana. It's a core Hawaiian value, this idea of family, community, and looking out for one another. The argument is that these contributions aren't just charity, but a way of honoring and becoming part of the local culture, of showing a real commitment to the well-being of the whole community. So you've got these two totally different stories, right? One is about displacement, and the other is about a new kind of stewardship. And reconciling the two, well, that's the great divide right at the heart of Hawaii's future.
It really is a classic double-edged sword. On one side, all this money brings investment, it creates jobs, and the philanthropic support can improve infrastructure. But the other side of that sword? A soaring cost of living, deeper economic segregation, and the displacement of local families. It seems like every single benefit has a pretty significant drawback. Which brings us to this fundamental question. What are we actually seeing here? Is this a new era of enlightened stewardship, where wealthy patrons are actually preserving and improving the islands?
Or is it accidentally creating a new kind of segregation where paradise has a price tag that only the super rich can afford? And you can see this conflict play out in the most basic way imaginable. Just trying to get to the beach. Legally, all of Hawaii's beaches are public. But in practice, how do you get to a public beach when a massive private estate is blocking the path? This clash between the public's right to the shore and a private owner's right to privacy has led to protests and some really intense legal battles all over the islands. When you put all of this together, the housing, the access, the economics, the culture, it all really boils down to one huge fundamental question about the future of this incredible place.
Whose Hawaii is it? Is it for the people whose ancestors have called it home for generations? Is it for the newcomers with the money and the power to reshape it? Or is there a future where both can somehow coexist?
Honestly, there are no easy answers. What happens next is really going to depend on the dialogue between these new landowners, the local communities, and the government. But as this trend continues, one thing is absolutely for sure. The very soul of Hawaii and the future of paradise itself is hanging in the balance.